There are a lot of ways we can measure how well we're doing in a game, but one of the most common is a character or player's health. Get too low and you lose. Or do you? Is health really a good measure of how well you're doing, or is there a better way to show your current strength? Let's talk about it today on Draw 5 Move 5. Hey everyone, and welcome to the table. My name is Gabe, and this is Draw 5 Move 5, a show where we draw connections between the mechanics behind our favorite games. Imagine this scene. You and a party of fellow adventurers make your way into a dungeon, tasked with saving the princess who has been kidnapped by goblins. You feel confident, rested, and prepared for what lies ahead of you as the group enters the yawning mouth of their cave, the cool stone beneath your feet. As the group travels through the first few levels, you face a few goblins, but nothing too concerning. The paladin and the barbarian get damaged a bit, but your cleric heals off this damage and you all keep moving. As you reach a lower floor, however, the party happens upon what appears to be a treasure room. The group prepares to stock up, but you're ambushed by a horde of goblins. Not expecting the enemy, the goblins are cunning enough to catch you off guard, and attack with not only their own weapons, but with a variety of traps they've laid within the treasure, such as a chest that you open and is rigged to fire poisoned arrows. When the battle is over, your group stands victorious, but heavily wounded. The party has used a large chunk of their resources to prevent themselves from being overwhelmed. Only a few spells, a potion or two, and one rage from the barbarian remain between all of you. At this point, the party has a choice. Rest and try to recover, but risk another ambush, or use the last of your resources to heal up, press on, and hope what fumes you have left are enough to defeat the remaining goblins and rescue the princess. Which do you value more? Your health or your resources? Which is a better gauge of what your party is capable of your chance at victory? This is the subject of today's discussion. Health is important. If a game includes it, losing it all means you as a player or character are defeated. There's an intriguing quirk to health, however, a sort of caveat to its importance. No matter how a game tracks health, via hearts, a bar, or a series of points, only one health number matters: 0. As long as you have at least one heart, one small part of your HP bar, one life point left, you can keep playing. And if you play your resources well, you can defeat an opponent from what appears to be a losing position. This is because, in the grand scheme of things, health really doesn't matter. It doesn't affect gameplay. Your deck doesn't become less consistent if you have less health. Your character doesn't hit less hard. These aspects of realism are something games tend to shy away from, because many players don't enjoy them. We may not feel heroic or strong if each time we lose health, our hits and strategies suffer. Rather than to simulate the full experience of what becoming injured or ill is like, the true purpose of health is to simulate a single aspect of it: the fear and drama of death. Each time the player's health decreases, they are closer to failure, closer to death, closer to losing everything they've worked for, all the progress they've made. In this way, health simulates the fear of death without the negative effects or realism. It creates drama, a perception that things are becoming more dangerous because we're running out of safety cushion to protect us from failure. We can see this by watching anyone play a challenging Super Mario Maker 2 stage. Mario Maker 2 is a game all about designing your own Mario stages and putting them out there in the world for people to enjoy. The makers have an unlimited palette of tools that allow them to make each stage as hard or as easy as they wish. In intentionally challenging levels, mushrooms are withheld from the player to keep Mario small. Small Mario dies if he touches almost any enemy, as opposed to shrinking to his usual size if he touched one while large. Think of it like an extra life. Without this safety net, players are constantly amped. It creates more dramatic tension, knowing they only have one chance to make it however far. Hopefully the next checkpoint, but they might not even have one. They may need to complete the level in one shot. The same is true of TCG like Yu-Gi-Oh! The TCG uses an 8,000 life point system. As with most other games, hitting 0 life points means you lose. When a player is low on life points, the stakes can feel higher. Coming back from incredibly low life points to win the duel is dramatic and fun. It can feel as though victory has been grasped from the jaws of defeat. As with Mario, while having low life points means that one hit may finish you off, with good skills, a well-designed deck, and a little luck, it's possible to avoid this fate and play through whatever the opponent may throw your way. Not guaranteed, as with Mario, but possible. Dungeons & Dragons and other RPGs, both tabletop and video game, do the same thing. Being low on health fuels drama. If your character is hit, you may fall, and the battle may swing dramatically. But with smart tactics and the luck of the die roll, it's the same thing. Health creates drama, but doesn't dictate your defeat unless you actually drop. It's something to manage and be aware of, but frequently not the reason for a loss. So if health isn't the best indicator of your chances at victory, what is? The answer is stamina. Your resources, be they your inventory or the abilities at your disposal in an RPG, or the cards remaining on your field and in your hand, deck, and discard pile in a TCG, determine what we can call a player or character's stamina. A few weeks ago we talked about power floors, the minimum amount of things a player or character can do in the game they play. Power floors are determined by stripping away all the additional resources you might have at your disposal and getting down to a character or player's most basic, constant abilities. What you can do at base level may be something meaningful, but a standard move may not do much against a foe with more resources or control than you. We also talked about the corresponding phenomena of power ceilings, which describe the maximum amount of things a player or character can do at once. Power ceiling is determined by combining all of the player's resources at their highest amount. In Dungeons & Dragons and similar games, for example, not only a fighter's sword swing, but their limited abilities and items as well, like an action surge they can use to attack once again, a second wind to heal a small amount, and any subclass abilities and items that may provide a benefit once in a while. How all of these resources are used, and how quickly the player goes from power ceiling to power floor, is the idea of resource management, and determines the stamina of a player, character, or deck. In our power ceiling video, we talked about two decks that were in a feature match at the Yu-Gi-Oh! North American World Championship qualifier, Trickstar and Crusadia Danger Thunder Dragon. I'd recommend watching the whole video, you can click the card to take a look, but to summarize, the two decks operate in very different ways. Trickstar takes its time accruing advantage and is able to do better the longer the game goes, while Crusadia Danger Thunder Dragon blows most of its resources at once, planning to completely stop the opponent and defeat them in one turn. In terms of stamina, we could describe Trickstar as having high stamina, and Thunder as having low stamina. This is primarily because Thunder uses all of its resources at once to execute its plan. If the Thunder deck doesn't actually succeed, they start running out of steam very quickly because their extra deck, the 15-card pile of monsters a Yu-Gi-Oh! Player can summon from whenever they meet the criteria, is almost empty. While Thunder does have some monsters and cards in the main deck that allow them to deal with threats or attack for large amounts of damage, most of the deck's plays come from the extra deck. It's what makes the game so consistent. And so, when it runs out, the attack power of their monsters alone often isn't enough for them to succeed, especially when relying on top decks to regain control. The monsters in the main deck, in other words, are only as good as the monsters you have left to summon with them from the extra deck. Comparatively, Trickstar has a variety of strong main deck monsters, spells, and traps that allow them to push through all sorts of scenarios, so their stamina is based more on the contents of their main deck and how many answers they have left for an opponent's cards, as well as their ability to eventually push for game using those main deck and a few extra deck resources. They're more reliant on their draws in order to make plays, rather than being able to reach into their extra deck to do what they want. But, in doing so, they have a stronger main deck core that allows them to fight through longer games. The use of abilities in RPGs like Dungeons & Dragons functions similarly. While every character has some base actions, their strongest abilities, and the entire spell system, are frequently tied up with cooldowns. You can only use them a certain number of times per short or long rest, which in standard D&D equates to either an hour break or a full night's sleep of in-game time. Many of these abilities are only once during that period, so managing these resources carefully is crucial. How often a character's best abilities recharge, how often they can use them before recharging, and how well they're managed can equate to a character's stamina. For example, a Warlock only has 2 spell slots, but they're very powerful and recharge over a short rest as opposed to a long rest for most other spellcasters. In addition, they have many more abilities that recharge on short rests, and sometimes don't even require recharge, so similar to fighters, I might classify them as having high stamina, but that breakdown is entirely subjective. Regardless of how you attribute stamina to a character, however, if that character runs out of resources, or stamina, they become about as close to a sitting duck as you can get. With so few strong abilities left, they start to become like some of the most boring monsters in the monster manual. Health sponges that hit you a bit and then keel over. Even at full health, a character who's completely out of powerful abilities is more likely to die at some point because they need to stay out of a fight or rely on others to protect them. This in turn can start to bring the whole party down as they use their collective resources protecting the character without, creating a vicious cycle of burning resources that can lead to a party defeat. All of these concepts hold true in video games as well. In Chrono Trigger, the characters in your party have standard physical attacks and techs, which include special physical attacks and magical abilities. All techs cost MP, or magic points, which can be restored with items and resting in certain locations like inns. Running out of MP would reduce a character to only being able to use physical attacks, which, depending on the character, can still be strong or be fairly weak. Ergo, not only is the MP of a character related to their stamina, but the amount of items you have to restore it as well. Items are also capable of restoring health, which provides an additional safety net, akin to consuming a mushroom and being large at Mario as we talked about earlier, and some items can revive fainted characters. This system is shared across many games, including the Pokemon franchise with power points being akin to MP, and items such as ethers and elixirs restoring power points, while potions can restore health, and revives can return a Pokemon from fainted to awake and partially healed. There is one game that I think masterfully combines health and stamina, and really makes health feel like what it's supposed to be: the recently revamped Bakugan trading card game. Each player has 3 Bakugan, which are these little sphere toys, and they choose one each turn to roll onto a series of hexagonal pieces in the center of the playfield called Bakugans. If a magnet inside the Bakugan catches one, the Bakugan will open, and if both players' Bakugan open, it's a brawl. What's so fascinating about Bakugan, however, is that unlike other TCG, there's not a number that counts as your health. Every player has a 40 card deck. Those 40 cards are your health. And when a Bakugan succeeds in an attack, the loser of the battle sends cards from the top of their deck to the discard pile, equal to the damage rating of that Bakugan. Not only is your deck representative of your resources, as it is in all TCG, but it's also representative of your health. Plays have to be made with the consideration that the more cards you draw, the less health there is to protect you. And there's even an entire card class called stops that are designed to minimize the amount of cards you have to remove from the top of your deck when you take damage. If you remove that card and you have the ability to play it, it can stop the rest of the damage you would have taken. This tie-in is the first game I've seen in a long time, perhaps ever, where health truly matters. And I think it's a really cool design space to consider exploring in the future across all genres of gaming. Health is a bit of a misleading term. Many good players don't need to lose all their health to know when they're beaten, because they know their resources, their stamina. If this aspect is too low, all the health in the world won't save a player or character from defeat. However, health still plays an important role for players. While stamina tracks a player's true chances at victory through their resources, health provides tension and drama by simulating the fear of failure and death. They're two related but separate systems that are integral to many games. Manage both of these aspects effectively, and your designs, as well as your playing, will have just the right balance of drama and tactics. Thank you so much for watching. You have my humble and eternal gratitude. What did you think of the conversation? Do you agree with this analysis of health and the related concept of stamina? And are there any games you can think of that show off a blend of these traits well, like the Bakugan TCG? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so let's keep this discussion rolling down in the comments. If you enjoyed the conversation and you want to hear more from me, subscribe and dingling that notification bell so you never miss an update. I'm putting out new videos every week on games and gaming mechanics, and dropping a like here lets me know you want to see more. My name is Gabe, this is Draw 5 Move 5, and until next week, go have a good game.